Okay, I'll call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, March 15th. First item on our agenda tonight is roll call.
Miller?
Here.
Rosado? Rosado? Beck? Here. Connolly?
Here.
Connolly?
Here.
Thank you. Chanzit? Chanzit? Solfa?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Barron?
Here.
Lehman?
Here.
Ayazi?
Here.
Malay?
Here.
Ewer?
Here.
Cerrone? Cerrone? And Vogelsinger? Vogelsinger? We have 10 out of 14.
All right, thank you. I know I did get an email from Mike Rosado, so that's the only one I know that sent in early that they were going to be gone. Next up is item 2, a reminder to please speak directly into the microphone. If you do come up, you can use the mic right up here. And if you're online, make sure to raise your hand and have your mic muted if you're not talking. Item number 3 is items to be removed, added, or changed. Do we have anything?
Only to add an executive session for personnel.
Okay. We'll add an executive session for personnel in item 16, collective bargaining and personnel. Okay. Up next is item number 4, which is matters for the public for items not on the agenda. Do we have anybody here for items that are not on the agenda tonight?
And there is no one online.
Okay. And we have Alderman Vogelsinger at 7:03. Did you hear that, Jenny? Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, up next then would be item number 5, which is a public hearing for project summary preliminary environmental impacts determination in support of a low-interest loan application to the Illinois EPA seeking funds to construct wastewater treatment facility improvements. Open the public hearing. Gary,
Thank you.
yours.
As part of the public hearing process, I do have to read a couple of paragraphs. And this is from a letter from the IEPA, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. It states that Section 365.330 of the Illinois Procedures for Issuing Loans from the Water Pollution Control Loan Program requires that the IEPA conduct an assessment of the environmental impacts of proposed wastewater projects to be funded with loans. This review is carried out in conjunction with the state's review of the applicant's project plan, the applicant being the City of Batavia. Prior to final approval of the project plan, the public's comments are sought regarding environmental impacts of the proposed project. Unless new information obtained through the public comment process causes reconsideration, the agency, the IEPA, will approve the project plan at the close of the public comment period. So Batavia has made the attached project summary and preliminary environmental impacts determination, or PEID, available for public inspection. It's been posted on our website. Within 60 days of receiving this letter, so this is the letter from the EPA that was dated March 3rd, Batavia must conduct a public hearing, which is what we're doing tonight, regarding both the PEID and project planning. Advertisement of the hearing must be made at least 10 days in advance, which it was. The advertisement must include the purpose of the project along with the date, time, and location of tonight's hearing. There is a public comment period of at least 10 days that shall be provided after the hearing, in which written comments may be submitted to the applicant or the IEPA contact person, and I will give that person's contact information at the end. The City of Batavia is seeking loan funds for a project known as Wastewater Treatment Phase 2A improvements. The general scope of the project entails upgrades and rehabilitation to the wastewater treatment facility in order to address excess flow and odor control issues. Activities associated with Phase 2A will not change the flow rate for the facility. The The City of Batavia is proposing to finance part of the project costs with a loan from the IEPA Water Pollution Control Loan Program. And it is anticipated that the project could have environmental issues such as construction noise, blowing dust, air emissions, traffic disruptions, and potentially soil erosion. If the comment would like to make if the public would like to make comment regarding this project, and again, I will read this, I know it's being recorded, grab your pencils. You can write to Chris Covert, C-O-V-E-R-T. He is the project manager with the Bureau of Water, care of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, 1021 North Grand Avenue East, P.O. Box 19276. That's in Springfield with the zip code 62794. That is officially what I have to state. Representatives from Trotter Engineering are here tonight in case City Council has any questions, and we also can open it up to members of the public.
Okay, does anybody in the audience have any comments on this tonight in public hearing? And for the record, Alderman Cerrone joined the meeting at 7:05. Okay, no comments? Does anybody on the council have any questions or comments? Anybody online?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Solfa, second by Miller. Roll call, please.
Solfa,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Cerrone,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado, sorry. Beck, aye. Connolly,
Aye.
motion carried, 12-0.
All right, the public hearing is closed. Okay, up next would be the consent agenda, which is one item. Item A, Resolution 2234R, approval of the 2022 zoning map. Anybody have any questions on the zoning map? I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second, Ewer.
Okay, motion by Wolf, second by Ewer. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Cerrone,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado absent, Beck, aye. Connolly,
Aye.
Chanzit absent, and Solfa.
Aye.
Motion carried 12-0.
All right, thank you. Up next would be item 7, which is approval of a Class D1 restaurant all liquor license application for Vea Incorporated, doing business as El Taco Grande Restaurant at 6 North River Street, Batavia.
Alan, I'm going to step out for this one.
Okay.
Thanks.
The record reflects Alderman Beck will leave for this item.
Alan, this is Alderman Malay. Is this city services?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, but I saw Mike's email that he wouldn't be here, so I can take this one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Application for a liquor license for restaurant for Vea Incorporated, doing business as El Taco Grande Restaurant. The background check has been complete, and there's no reason not to issue it. The question I have is this a change in ownership or leadership because I believe they already had a license there.
Yes, the chief is coming up to address this.
Okay.
There was a change in ownership several years back. They did not extend the liquor license at that time, and now they're asking for a liquor license for the new ownership.
Okay. Okay, I would make a motion to send to City Council recommendation of approval for Class D1 license for Veja Incorporated doing business as El Taco Grande.
Second.
First and second by Saron. Clerk, call the roll.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado, absent. Peck, absent. Connolly,
Aye.
Chanzit, absent. Sofa,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
and Ayasi.
Aye.
Motion carried 11-0.
All right, thank you. Okay. Alderman Beck should return for item number 8. And then item 8 would be ordinance 2214, terminating special service area number 61 for the One Washington Place development. Scott?
Yes, so as part of our unwinding of the One Washington project, this is one of the items that we have to still do. This actually terminates the special service area that was originally dormant and was intended to be activated only in the event of paying off bonds or insurance premiums or the school district donations that are required as part of the development. Because this special service area was specific to this development, there really is no purpose for it, and keeping it in place would actually create a cloud on the title that may make it more difficult to redevelop or sell the property in the future. So our recommendation is to go ahead and pass this ordinance, which would terminate special service area 61, and once it's recorded, that would be dissolved.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this? Another one of the formalities to undo this. Okay, I will make the motion then to recommend to City Council ordinance 2214, terminating special service area number 61 for One Washington Place development.
Second.
Motion by Wolf, second by Miller. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado, absent. Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Chanzit, absent. Sofa,
Aye.
motion carried 12-0.
All right, thank you. Up next would be item 9, amendment to resolution 21-86-R, downtown improvement grant for Ware Equity Partners on Wilson Street, 15 East Wilson Street. And this is from the memo, a change in plumbing work on the building. So they would like to have the maximum grant for that. which I
And
believe
Shannon is available online.
Shannon?
Good evening, council. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Fantastic. This is a nominal request from the property owners after finding some additional expenses during the course of the previously approved work for the fire sprinkler. They've done some additional plumbing for an ejector pit with some unanticipated costs in the neighborhood of $15,000. Back in September, the grant was at $22,734, and they're requesting the balance of $2,266 to help offset some of these costs.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Knowing how plumbing work grows right now, I totally understand this.
Personally.
Okay. If there are no questions, I will make the motion that we recommend to council the amendment to resolution 21086R, downtown improvement grant for Ware Equity Partners at 15 East Wilson Street.
Second, Ewer.
Motion by Wolf, second by Ewer. Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado, absent. Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Shanzit, absent, and Sofa.
Aye.
Motion carried 12-0.
All right, thank you. Up next would be item 10, Resolution 22-36-R, approval for design engineering services with RJN Group for improvements to the Randall Road Lift Station. Alderman Saron.
Yes, thank you. This is improvements, phase one for the lift station for some mechanical and electrical components. They've budgeted $210,000 for the year. This is about a third of that, almost $70,000. Gary, did you want to add anything to that?
This will encompass their phase one study as well as the phase two design. So that's what the $69,800 is for. RJN, the city has used RJN services many times in the past for sanitary sewer and lift station type projects. This is for a small, very small lift station that sits out in front of the target. And again, we will evaluate the best way to reconstruct this lift station, and then the design will be incorporated into this as well.
I just had one question. I know this is a third of the total budget, but is this in line for this phase of what you expected?
It is. We've reviewed the hours for the consultant. Our former superintendent kind of had to take his best estimate at this number because we were working somewhat in the dark. This number, the 210,000, is meant to then encompass the start of the construction. The start of the construction won't all be completed in 2022, so it'll roll into 2023. So the 210,000 is meant to get us through the year 2022.
Gotcha. Anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, I would make a motion to send to City Council with a positive recommendation, Resolution 22-36R. Seconded by Alderman Conley. Slightly ahead of Alderman.
Duly noted.
Roll call, please.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado, Beck,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Shanzit, Sofa,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
and Ewer.
Aye.
Motion carried 12-0.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. And that can go on consent, I think. That should be fine. Up next would be item number 11, which is a discussion on a request for permission from IDOT for removal of the Batavia Avenue pedestrian crossing at McKee Street. This comes out of our last discussion that we had during our last meeting, our last council meeting. I guess what we need to do is try to decide how do we want to proceed with this. Do we want to request direct to IDOT? I know we had asked them before to rebuild this so that we could put the lights back in, and they would not allow that. They would not allow us to put the rapid flashing beacon or any upgrade to the crossing at that point. So are we just waiting for them to decide what they're going to do with that?
So, again, just a reminder to City Council that it is under IDOT's jurisdiction. We are not allowed to go out and do any work out there without an approval and permit from IDOT. The city did approach IDOT about the potential to, as you have said, Alderman, to reinstall the rapid flashing beacons. We even approached IDOT about a Hawk system. IDOT said no to both of those options. We brought it back to City Council, and that was the time when City Council elected to pursue the road diet. So we are right now in the midst of a road diet study. I've indicated in my memo to you that we're expecting any day to receive the feasibility study report, and after writing that memo to you late last week, we have now received that report, so we just need to kind of digest it, and then we'll be bringing it forward to you. So that's for the road diet study that we will then hopefully go straight into phase 1 engineering for with IDOT.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on this?
Seems to me we're a little premature, right? We should wait
Ye-
to get.
You know, and that's one of the things that I thought about after we, decided to bring this back up at this meeting was if we're in the middle of trying to get a road diet moved through and approved, that's going to be redesigning that. I don't know, unless that runs simultaneously with a permit from IDOT on that, what we do with that
That's step one
intersection.
for safety. I mean, that was the purpose for doing the road diet in
Right,
the first
that's-
place. So that's step one, and then we can move from there. I mean, I don't, coinciding two different directives is kind of a moot point.
So just a couple of comments. I think I made mention of this at the last meeting. Just from a timing standpoint, the feasibility study is wrapping up now. We just received that memo. We should be able to get that memo before City Council and subsequently to IDOT. We need to get IDOT's concurrence that, yes, they're on board and they will bless us essentially to go forward with the phase 1. That should happen all in the next couple of months. Once we get the we already have an engineer on board. So once we get the blessing to move forward with the phase 1, the phase 1 process is a good year-long process, just so everybody knows that. And as part of the phase 1 process, it not only is vehicular traffic, but a huge part of the phase 1 process is pedestrians and cyclists to ensure that everyone in the right-of-way, the facilities are set up to serve everyone. So that'll be a big part of the phase 1 process, is identifying all these needs that exist out there.
Yeah.
It was brought up last week at our city council meeting by the residents, the possibility of removing that crossing until the road diet is complete or some other solution. I'm curious, have any of the other pedestrian crossings have had similar incidences as that McKee Street one in our town?
Not that I am aware of. Even the other 2 rapid flashing beacons have, I think, just greater visibility than the one at McKee Street.
So that one at McKee Street has had, up to this point, 3 incidences with pedestrians?
Yeah, I don't know exactly many serious incidents there have been.
That is correct, Alderman. 3 since 2018. That's correct.
3, okay, thank
And if
you.
I'm not mistaken, Gary, if you can correct this or confirm this, that's since the rapid flashing beacon went down. Is
Came
that
down,
correct?
right.
Yes.
So
So I think those 2 things are connected.
since the beacons came down, it's now just a standard pedestrian crosswalk. And that was the question come before council tonight is, do you wish to seek a permit from IDOT to remove that crosswalk?
I mean, since 2018, to have 3 incidences does seem concerning, and I do wonder if the best interest would be to remove it if possible. And could we even bring our concerns with these incidences to IDOT to quicken along the process to get permission to take it out?
That is an IDOT decision. It's not, again, I want to stress that it's not our roadway.
Absolutely, I understand that, yeah.
If IDOT decides they want to go left and we want to go right, there's no choice that we have.
But if we show them that there is a safety concern with the specific dates and incidences that have happened, I would hope that IDOT would speed things along to give us permission to do that.
I only grimace because I would hope that IDOT would have let us do the other options that we suggested too.
On the same basis, yeah.
Yeah.
We may get some FaceTime with IDOT next week at the drive down. So that was one of my other thoughts is give this another week, let us talk to them directly, face to face, if we can get time in front of them and ask them that question.
Alderman Lehman, if I could add that I agree with your assessment. I think that supports the decision to both pursue the road diet and potentially petition to temporarily remove the crosswalk for safety reasons. I think this is definitely a different, this intersection is behaving differently than the other crosswalks against the 4-lane road. We have concerns about all of them along Batavia Avenue, but this one's significantly higher degree of concern.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, I would be in favor. I mean, if we wait a week to send an email or a letter to IDOT, I would rather, why wait a year or two hoping that we end up with the road diet and then we don't, and then now we've got to go and ask, oh, shoot, we should have done this before. If we get a road diet, the road's going to be restriped anyway, and at which point we could say, can we have a regular crosswalk there again? It just doesn't make sense. I didn't want it years ago, and I don't want it now.
Does anybody online have any comments? Abby, you got your hand up? Go ahead.
Thanks. I struggle, obviously, anytime we talk about removing pedestrian infrastructure. This whole couple weeks and thinking about this since that last city council meeting, I've kind of landed on this pit in my stomach of this road diet just can't not happen. I mean, we have hashed out this intersection. We've talked about this road. This seems like the only solution that we have to make this moat of a roadway into something functional for our city. And so if we are going to pursue that route of removing this crosswalk, I would request that we also do two other things. The first is take all the testimony that we heard last week and all the testimony we've heard in the past 7 years since I've been paying attention about this road. And we put that in our application for the road diet, well, you can put it in the application to remove the crosswalk too, I suppose, but in the application to remove to pursue the road diet, because I want IDOT to know that we are resorting to removing pedestrians and cyclists from the landscape in response to the current conditions of that road. And as a city that has professed to wanting to be bikeable and walkable, and in a day that, gas is $5 a gallon, we are removing crosswalks. Like that's a pretty bad situation. Like that's a low right there. So that's my first request. My second request is that now that it's getting nicer out, if we could go and have a walking meeting, and thank you, Laura, for that invitation for the biking meeting, but to do another walking meeting like we've done in the past, and let's go meet out on Batavia Avenue. Let's go cross at McKee Street and cross at Houston Street and talk about how that feels and how that street operates. There's been points in my life that I've made those crossings at those two intersections on a daily basis. And if anyone else out there has not crossed there in a while or doesn't cross there regularly, it would probably do some good to get some local, real feet on the ground experience as we talk about these things. Because I can say from personal experience, I will miss this crosswalk. I find this to be a much more comfortable, safer place to cross than Houston Street. Houston Street has far more conflict points because it's a 4-point intersection. You've got the turning traffic coming from the gas stations, and those are the ones that are definitely not looking for pedestrians as they make those turns out of after stopping. I will miss this intersection. I think it is better than Houston Street, and it just points out ever more clearly that this road does not serve our community the way it is laid out, and the road diet can't not happen.
Yeah, Abby, I'll agree with you that I struggle with taking that away from pedestrian access to downtown. I think the biggest thing is we have to realize no matter what we do with that intersection, we also have to petition IDOT to reduce the speed limit, and then we have to get drivers to actually obey the speed limit on that section of Route 31, Batavia Avenue, because that, no matter what we do with it, no matter how we stripe it, no matter how we signalize it, if people don't pay attention and obey the speed limits, we still have accidents. We've had pedestrians get hit in a crosswalk at Wilson Street with the right-of-way, and people just don't pay attention going through intersections. So the reality that I think we have to deal with is we have a lot of problems with traffic on that road, and anything that we can do to try to make that safer for people, we need to do. And I think the road diet is a huge step in the right direction.
Alderman, if I could interject one more time.
Yep.
And I agree with that assessment. And I think that this is a precautionary measure. I'm not advocating that we take that out permanently. I'm saying right now, until we get the road diet, I think we've proven that it's an unsafe intersection. But I would remind the council that none of those accidents were caused by speed at Batavia Avenue and McKee Street. They're all caused by the outside lane and inside lane conflict, and we've been discussing this for several years.
And that'll lay squarely on the shoulders of the drivers or the pedestrian, crossing, not having the right of way, or I should say, not having the right of way, not having clear line of sight to the vehicles moving down the road. I mean, I've been on that a block away from that for almost 38 years. And so I've seen a lot of accidents and a lot of different things happen out there. And I see people cross that road every day at different times of the day with huge amounts of traffic. And I watch people stand there and wait until they know they can safely cross. And then when you see ones that dodge cars and, just take a deep breath and hope nobody gets hit. Do you have another comment, Abby?
I did, as long as we're on the topic. So I was chatting to my husband about this intersection as we were driving down 31 last week, and it was a little bit lighter out than this, but we came up to the Union Street flashing beacons, and the lights were flashing. So we came and we stopped, and I saw a car coming at us. They stopped, and I'm always looking over my shoulder and hoping, oh gosh, nobody's speed around. But the problem that we had is that we couldn't see who had pressed the buttons because it was getting dark and the sidewalks there aren't lit. And there's two little kids on Razor scooters that start to go as we had stopped, and they waited and then they went, but we couldn't see them on the sidewalk. So it's also an issue of safety and awareness for drivers that they see these lights and then they don't see anything else going on. They might just start going at the same time a kid thinks it's safe to go across as well. So I think we also just holistically need to look at where these crosswalks are and make conditions safer and more comfortable and bring that awareness to people that are on foot all around it.
Okay, so we need to make a decision. And do we wait until we go down state and talk to IDOT? Do we take a letter with us to IDOT, present to them that until we have a road diet done, that we want to remove that crosswalk as a temporary removal? Do we want to leave it where it is? Now I see George's got his hand up. Go ahead, George.
My hand's not up, but if you want me to, I'll put it up.
There's like a hand.
That's the icon. I think that's the,
Okay, that must be your
Cursor.
background
It's a
icon. There's a
cursor.
hand there.
No, it's the mouse on the screen.
Oh, okay. There, he's got their mouse, okay. Really?
You can make it look like anyone's raising their hand.
Sarah? Go ahead.
I really appreciate hearing from Chief Ewell. I've been talking about this with my husband and family and other people that use these crosswalks. I myself have used this crosswalk coming over from the west side to get to the river trail, so I know how nice it is to access without having to go down to Wilson. But I have concerns, just like everybody else. So hearing from Chief Ewell that he feels it would be a better option to remove it, I think that maybe approaching IDOT with a letter in hand saying this is our desire because of the resident feedback and including that feedback as Alderman Beck proposed, I think that seems like a good option.
Nick?
I agree with that, and obviously I would lean heavily on the chief's advice, but I wonder if by removing I'd be interested if there's any kind of history of removing the crosswalk, are we really gonna eliminate people crossing there? And now they don't have a crosswalk. Does it really make it safer? I think our number one goal is the road diet, and that's what we got to focus on, and we got to put all our efforts on. But I'd be curious if there's any history or any other crossings that we could say, yeah, we removed the crosswalk, but people still, the sidewalk leads there, I'm going to cross here.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that. I think if we're going to remove the crosswalk, we would petition IDOT to also remove the sidewalks, not the curb. I mean, the depressed curb can remain because we'll probably be reusing the depressed curb one day, but we can grass over the parkways so that there is no sidewalk leading out to the roadway. That's what I would petition IDOT for.
Mark?
Yeah, I've said in the past that obviously I live on 31. I have no sidewalk. I cross the street when it's safe to cross the street. So it's tough that, I mean, frankly, the longest I think I've ever waited is probably 90 seconds, but people are going to cross wherever they're going to cross. They cross into Houston, there's no crosswalk there. There's nothing to stop anybody from doing it. So, yeah, I mean, removing it, sure, people are still going to cross there, but I think at that point, they're actually going to be a little bit more cautious because they're not going to think people are looking for me to cross. So, I wait.
Alan?
Yes, Leah, go ahead.
I know this, want that road diet to happen because I think that will fix a lot of problems, but I do agree with Mark on that sentiment. I think too many pedestrians rely too heavily on crosswalks, that cars are paying attention and that they're going to stop, and I do not think that is true. And I think, especially there at McKee Street, it is just a dangerous blind intersection. And it just provides pedestrians a little too much security, I think, in a place that security is not warranted.
So I'm sorry to keep piping in here, but if I could for one more second. So there are different types of crosswalks. Each four-way intersection essentially has a crosswalk. There are controlled and uncontrolled crosswalks, and there are improved and unimproved crosswalks. Controlled being controlled by some kind of a signal. Improved meaning some kind of striping or markings to indicate that that's a crosswalk. And right now, it's an uncontrolled, improved crosswalk with some signage and striping on the ground. And what we've done, and to recall, we at one point had a rapid flashing beacon there, and that was destroyed and it wasn't allowed to be reinstalled. So now we have a design flaw in that uncontrolled, improved crosswalk area, and I think that's what's causing the major source of the problems. Is we're attracting people to that intersection under the auspices that it's a safe way to cross or safe place to cross, and I think over the last several years we've proven that it's an unsafe place to cross because of the design flaw as a result of the removal of the rapid flashing beacon.
Well, it is per the MUTCD right now. I mean, it is a pedestrian crosswalk. It meets all the requirements for a pedestrian crosswalk for signage and striping. That being said, to Alderman Ewer's point, if we get the road diet, we're going to be restriping the entire roadway anyways, and as part of the Phase 2 design, we can incorporate wherever we want to put crosswalks. We can put those in as part of the Phase 2 design. So removal of the crosswalk does not preclude reinstallation of the crosswalk at some point in the future.
I think we should take a letter with us down to IDOT and present it to them and ask them, since it's their road, put that on their shoulders.
But I do like Abby's idea of adding, since it's not controlled anymore, what's happened in the last 3 years since it hasn't been controlled, and then.
My understanding, and Alderman Beck could correct me if I'm wrong, that the testimony was to accompany the application for the road diet.
The Phase 1.
Yeah, but maybe it is too, because that might expedite.
I would keep this one more broader. I mean, this is a very simple request, as opposed to overcomplicating what is a very simple request.
We can share the incidents, and those would speak for themselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm not talking on the testimony, I'm just saying, hey, in the past 3.5 years, this has happened.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
Can we expedite this?
We're on the same page then.
Okay, Your Honor?
Yeah, I just want to.
Can you grab a microphone, Your Honor?
Microphone.
Sorry, been over closer.
I just want to encourage the city council to follow the advice that's been given by the city public works director and by the police chief. I think these two gentlemen are working daily on this issue, very hard. I know both of them have their own departments watching things and making suggestions and cutting the grass or the weeds or whatever we need to do there to make it somewhat friendly, but, let everybody know the danger. And I think they've just spelled out for you the dangers that exist there, and we've got to go to a different answer for this thing. So I would encourage us to go ahead and do this. And, there's going to be some folks that are going to be disappointed they can't cross there, but I think we may save a life in the meantime, so.
I mean, I guess somebody that really wants to cross there is still going to cross there, just like Mark said. He crosses from his driveway, and I've crossed down there at Illinois before, so I know that it can be done. You just have to wait until you know it's safe and there's no traffic. The same thing with walking across in front of where I work on Houston Street. You just have to wait your time out and make sure you know that you're not going to get trapped on the center line, or you're not going to run out of the way of somebody flying up Wilson and 31.
I would agree that's a logical thought process, but I would say not wait till next week. I would push forward with it, because you don't know who we're going to give it to, who we're not going to give it to. If we move forward and bring it down there, it'll have the extra effect.
Do you want to draft a letter from Public Works, or should we bring it from administration?
I think probably administration and/or
In the mayor.
In the mayor,
maybe, yeah.
okay.
The last time we did the speed reduction, it came
Yeah.
from the mayor's
Mayor.
office.
Okay,
I've done in 10 days.
okay. And we can, if we want to review the letter or anything, I guess we could do that at our next COW meeting, because that's before we go downstate. And then we'll just have to make sure all the corrections are ready to go for the next morning when we leave.
I will not be here at that COW meeting, or actually
Okay.
for the next 2 weeks, because I have various state meetings. So,
Okay.
But
I'll be
obviously
here.
Laura will be here, so.
Okay. We'll get that taken care of.
Okay.
Okay. Now, our next discussion, item 12, North River Street closure and outdoor dining status update.
So we are still waiting, as of today's date, even several days past the date of my memo, for the permit to permanently convert North River Street to one-way southbound. Obviously, it's no longer feasible to bid the project and have it fully constructed by Memorial Day. So, as we've discussed a couple of weeks ago now, other options for 2022, and I had presented two options in my memo. One was to implement the full closure, identical to what was done for the past two seasons, and that we have a permit for already from IDOT. That could be implemented really at any time after the end of the snow season, and knock on wood, I hope we're after the end of the snow season. But being in Public Works, I know it can snow into April, so the closure could remain in place until the week following Thanksgiving, which is traditionally when we've taken it down. The other option is to implement Saturday morning closures for the farmers market event. That was what was done from when the road was first built in 2012 all the way through the start of the pandemic. The roadway would remain open to traffic throughout the week, except for a few select closures associated with other special events. Occasionally there's a 5K out there or whatnot. Under that scenario, again, the scenario that existed for 8 years, outdoor restaurant uses would be regulated via the city's standard license agreement with dining areas along the sidewalk, quote unquote, even though it's a Warner if there really isn't a sidewalk, but I think you understand what I mean. So those are the two options that I laid out for North River Street.
Okay. Who wants to start?
I mean, we can cut this short, right? I mean, I want to close it for the summer. Is there consensus? Is there anyone who thinks differently? Because if not, we can make this short and sweet.
I somewhat struggle with the full closure on it, just because I think that there are other businesses besides the restaurants that benefit from the full closure, that, you may change the way they're accessible by having the street closed. I don't think, that it kills them, but I think it does change the way they operate. The one that comes to my mind immediately is my 88-year-old mother-in-law going to get her hair done. It's a block and a half or a block away that she gets to walk back and forth. She's able to do it, but that's a struggle, for a lot of people.
If Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't know if there was consensus. I just wanted to cut to the chase, not to
I'm
discount
98%
the other
okay with
side.
closing.
I get that, but if we're willing to open it up or shut it down just on Saturdays, are we willing to shut it down Wednesday afternoon to Monday morning, where there's kind of a crossover? I'm just throwing things out there where we can kind of meet in the middle. I don't know.
Alan?
Yeah. Keenan?
I had asked a question earlier about, and I got a response, which I'll let Gary elaborate on, was having the street shut down the entire summer hurts the people that are open during the day, and there's some crossover between people that are open and then close, and then the other people are open throughout most of the night. So like, the question I had was, can we leave it open in the beginning of the week, close it down end of day on Thursday, leave it closed until, and I said Sunday, or open it first of the day on Monday, because that's when most of the activities and the nightlife happens, is Thursday trivia night, Friday bands or whatever happens on Friday. Saturday is usually packed with people. Sunday you get people meandering through after church and then opening it back up. And there's some logistics and time and financial things that have to happen for all of those things, which, Gary, you want to give me all of that?
Sure.
Because you're the expert on that stuff. You want to talk about that?
I can jump in. The idea was, what happens if we shut the road down on Thursdays? So let me start there. You all are Batavians, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30, suddenly downtown is gridlocked because the high school is let out. That's not a safe time for my guys to be out there working on non-emergency items. This would be a non-emergency item. So if they got to be off the road by, say, 2 o'clock, that means we have to start at least an hour earlier than that, 1 o'clock, 12:30-ish, with the road closure. So that would be every Thursday at right in the smack middle of the day. I'm pulling 2 people off the crew to send them to downtown to implement a road closure. That'll take them about an hour to get set up. Inevitably, I've just been around long enough to know that inevitably, Mrs. Smith will have an appointment at 1:30. So I'm going to get a call one day that says, oh, can you hold off on the road closure because Mrs. Smith is coming in today and she can't walk the block and a half. If you could just wait till 1:30, we'd appreciate it. That will happen. And it's just these things that come up constantly where people will want to customize the road closure for their individual schedules. So that's 2 people on a Thursday. And then the suggestion was, well, what do we go through the end of the weekend? But again, if I have people out on Sunday, I'm paying them double time to come out and take down a road closure. So we do it first thing Monday morning. And again, I have 2 people on Monday morning. So that is 2 guys for 2 hours each. So basically 4 man-hours total per week. We've got May, June, July, August, September, and October. That's 6 months, 6 times 4 weeks, 24 weeks, 24 times 4, 96. I've got 96 man-hours. They don't make $100 an hour, but if you count benefits and material and all the hassle, you are talking close to $10,000 throughout the summer to have our crews open and close that thing every week.
How does the math differ from just closing it for Saturdays?
We pay ESDA $100 a week. It's ESDA volunteers that go out there, and they go out once a week and close it down. So for the same 24 weeks, if they do it every week, it's $2,400 versus $9,600.
And ESDA, because
where's
they're
ESDA?
Volunteers, they're not available during the ordinary workday.
Work week.
And that, again, that's now just putting the barricades up. The road will that point just be empty. So whoever's sliding out tables or garbage cans or lighting, that is something else. We heard 2 weeks ago that, maybe the restaurant owners would handle all of that stuff, but all of that stuff needs to be coordinated and timed so that you don't just have an empty looking road out there as people are driving by during the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of just close it for the whole summer. But I would keep that southern entrance to River Street just completely closed. And then if we decide again that where the restaurant owners are talking, hey, we'll move the barricades on the north side so that people can still drive down during the day. and then come 4 or 5 o'clock, let's close it up. And if they're gonna do that, if they don't do it, then the tables are off to the side and nobody, they don't get entertainment, they don't get what they're looking for. But if they do what they say they're gonna do, then they get the benefit of it too. And I mean, I stopped counting how many emails. Obviously, somebody said, "Hey, there's a meeting. Let's tell everybody that you want to keep cars off of the road." And there's a significant amount of emails that came to us saying, "Just close it." It's unique. It's actually not unique anymore, to be honest, because St. Charles has closed off a section of downtown saying, "Look, no more cars here," because during COVID they had all the restaurants there. So if we have it open, then we lose what we had, and I would just close it. And obviously that's the direction we're heading in when we say it's one-way southbound, is in that allows us to close it whenever we want to. And that I started thinking about it, if there was any way, we just don't have alleys and stuff, but if there was any way to just like not have cars on at all, I think it'd be fantastic. But I don't think that'll happen without some weird construction going on.
The only thing I would push back on is if we have the permanent closure at Wilson Street, and if council decides that we're going to do the traditional setup we've done for the last two summers, which is the tables and the barrels and the overhead lights, mixing that with then opening it up on the north end to allow traffic to come in is not going to mix. So you think you got to, I mean, we do, don't get me wrong, they still open the north end because there's deliveries that come down, there's people that come down there. So that we would not change, but to have it just open and say anyone could drive down there, now you're literally driving into a dining area.
Leah?
Yeah, I was going to inquire about that. I know last year, during the day, deliveries were allowed to happen. Residents who live down, like Paperboy Alley and stuff, were allowed to drive down there. So for the occasional, I can't assume that it happens that often, elderly person or somebody who needs extra mobility help would be allowed to be dropped off closer to the business during the day, correct?
I think so. In fact, Katrina would have to comment on that. I'm not sure if that's how it worked last year or not. But we had the barricade staggered at the north end so that people could get in and out of there for those
As
various
needed,
reasons.
yeah, like incidences like
And
that.
parking garage would be available for that, right?
The lower level of the garage, actually, entrance is closed. You can just get in and out of the garage from State Street.
That's what I mean, but from State Street, you could get in and out. So we could designate that all as a pickup and drop-off area and a handicap parking area only.
Which there are handicap spaces in there today.
Right, but there's only,
there's
a couple, but what I'm saying is we as the city, because we own the parking garage, can set that up how we wanted to try to benefit those businesses, to be able to have a place where they could use that as a pickup and drop-off spot. And make that the whole lower level of that for that use and as a handicap parking area.
Yeah, we can customize that.
Try to keep everything on one level and as close to the businesses that are there that would need that.
Yeah, because I was down there just, this weekend and realized that there is no parking in front of any of those businesses on the south end of River Street anyway. People already are having to park in lots off the blocks and walk into all of those businesses. So the only benefit people are getting right now is just to be able to zoom up that street at 30 miles per hour to go find parking in another lot to then walk back to the business. And so by closing it off, all we're doing is just encouraging people to drive around the block and actually pull into the parking lots a lot easier from up above and stuff when you're coming off of Washington. So I know that Melissa at the Tea Tree had some concerns for her business, for people being able to find her business, which I understand that, and I sense her concerns, but I think for the benefit of the heart of Batavia, creating that as being a very walkable, safe pedestrian place for kids to play, just brings a lot of what Batavia, the spirit of Batavia is. So I do also support closing it.
Abby, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet for you, Nick Cerrone. I do support closing it as well as the community asset that it's become. And it's temporary. I mean, it's another one of those things that it feels like the IDOT permit can't not happen because the one-way would just alleviate and compromise on all of these concerns. So it's a temporary solution until we get the better permanent solution.
Gary?
I'm not going to take us too far afield, but my intention is when we receive the IDOT permit, hopefully soon, that we will be going out for bid like this summer, because the lead time for traffic signal equipment now is 9 months to a year. So we can get out to bid, we can get the contractor to order that equipment so that by next year we'll have it. So I want to get that to bid as soon as possible, as soon as we get this permit. If again, you're all asking, so what we would have done this year? This year we would have done some sort of temporary signal, which I'm trying to avoid. I'm hoping to get the permanent signal next year. It's part of the project.
I got one more question.
Keenan?
One more idea that I just thought of was that if we're closing it and gives us the ability on the north end to open and close it as we see fit, whenever we want to, that's correct, right?
Again, I would advise we do what we've done the last couple of years, where it's technically closed, but it allows for deliveries or whatnot to go in there.
Okay.
I don't think we should just have it open.
No.
to the public.
And what I'm getting at is that, is there some potential way we could set it up, the bollards and the barriers and things, as a one-way, so that if we left it open?
No, IDOT will not permit that.
Okay.
That's part of the problem. Yeah, that.
I know they're.
We've talked about.
I know they're the sticklers.
Yeah.
And Gary, just so, I know that there's been a lot of concerns about just the aesthetic of it, and I know that you've already discussed this before, but because people might be paying attention this time because it's on topic, can you just explain what the limitations are again, in terms of the barriers and what we are required to have as opposed to making it look pretty?
So we are required to have the ugly orange and white barricades, the signage, the striping. Those are all per the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. I've said it here many times, the only people that use that manual are engineers and attorneys, and if you don't follow the manual, you find yourself in legal trouble. What we are not required to have, but what is highly advisable nowadays as best practice, is the personal protection, the jersey barriers. Those provide that physical barrier for a vehicle, because obviously a vehicle can drive right through the orange and white barricade. When you have people seated out there or playing charades out there, or whatever the case might be, it's a long-term closure. It is always best to have physical protection. We do the same thing for when we have a large crowd down here for Windmill City Fest. If you'll notice, the last several years, we've parked snow plows. So that is something that has now become standard practice.
Thank you. I just know that people are, because of the interest we've had, I know that was a topic, so thanks for explaining that again.
I know at one point we talked about this, and this was actually more up on 31, but what about getting, instead of the jersey barriers, as you call them, like the big cement flower pots? So we can kind of make it pretty, put some flowers and plants in there, instead of just having those square.
We have the flower pots on North River Street. I mean,
Right, but use that as the barrier,
yeah.
as opposed to the big, because they're big and heavy. If you put 4 across there and, put some flowers in there.
I'm not disagreeing with you, because you even see it downtown Chicago. I hem and I haw for us to put up any other type of protection device other than, like an approved device. I get it. I understand what you're saying.
Right, no, I mean, I get the orange and
I don't know that a
white.
flower
We know
pot
that
is an
that's what
approved
that is.
device.
And we take it a step further because we just
We do.
want to put that protection. It's not required. Those flower pots are pretty heavy. It's gonna stop somebody.
I would not want to be in the courtroom saying, yes, Your Honor, I didn't want a jersey barrier, but the flower pot I thought would stop somebody.
Is
That's
there
my problem.
possibly a compromise where the jersey barriers, people could paint the jersey barriers and make them look more aesthetically appealing?
I think that was it, and I think that was offered a couple years ago, and we got pushback on that. I mean, if there's some way to decorate them and make them nice, and, we got to do something. So.
I get it. We've heard it the last 2 years. I know that people don't like it. I get it. I understand it. Hopefully this is the last summer that we all have to deal with this. again, I push back, the first incident that happens out there, we're all going to be, wanting hopefully to have taken a different course. I don't want there ever to be an incident out there.
I get that. Nobody wants that,
Yeah.
but let's paint them then. Let's paint them.
Sarah?
Because you've said to us, what is required
The
is
MUTCD.
the orange and the white, and everything else is just that extra barrier. And I think that it's proven that people haven't driven through it at this point because they're getting used to it. It's been consistent, and so we know, we haven't had those incidents. We haven't had an incident of somebody even trying to turn into the street and have had an accident from it. So I think there's a little bit of history there, where previously there wasn't that history and there was that nervousness, but now we have a little bit of history.
There is, and it's not only to prevent the accidental, but the intentional as well. And that's the thing that you can never count on by past history, is whether somebody would intentionally try to enter that roadway, and we're protecting against that too.
There's so many other ways that they could get in through it. If they wanted to, even with the Jersey barriers, from that entrance over by 6+ Cypress, you can get a car in there. If somebody wants to intentionally do that, they're gonna do that. So we're just trying to block in it. They're going to find a way to get in there. And if they don't come that way, they're gonna come from the north side. If somebody wants to intentionally injure a large crowd, they're not gonna be like, oh, let me try and go through the Jersey barriers. They're gonna go through the easiest point of view, and that's from the north side.
Sarah?
Yeah, I have two questions. On the painting note, I wasn't around for conversations about that previously, that I recall anyway. Is there a reason that we weren't allowing them to be painted in the past? I guess safety reason?
I think Alderman Barron touched on it. I think it has always been staff's trepidation about venturing too far from, the MUTCD and
Standard.
approved traffic control devices. Right. I mean, we could go with flower pots if the council wants to go to flower pots.
No, I just mean.
I just don't think that that's advisable. But
I like
painting, as Laura suggested, might be a good compromise.
Well, that's my point. Yes, I like the Jersey barriers. My kids like to play on the exact other side of them, so they would be the first one hit by a car. And I don't want that. So the Jersey barriers make sense, but could we paint them? And if we start working on this now, we could possibly work collaboratively with maybe high school art teachers. Not that I want to give any teachers more work at this point in the school year, but just get some kids that are creative to paint, however many barriers there are, maybe just a couple small groups. I think that is a really nice compromise.
Gary, are these our barriers? We own the concrete barriers? Because then if we ever wanted to use them somewhere else and you don't want them to be painted or flowered or whatever we do to them, we can sandblast them and clean them off.
I would suggest instead of painting them, you could just, nowadays vinyl wraps are so easy.
Oh, yeah.
Just put a vinyl wrap on them.
It's an honor for the kids too. We could do it annually. It could be seniors.
Yeah.
They get to paint them, and there's pictures and
Yeah.
Instagram.
Hopefully this is the last year we get to have this
Don't
debate
tell
about
them.
the barriers and what they look like.
First and last. That's an honor too.
But doing a vinyl wrap would maybe accomplish all the goals and maintain the integrity of the barriers, which may one day need to be placed out somewhere else.
Right, and that's what I was saying, if they're ours, if we were renting them or something, leasing them, I don't know that we'd want to paint them, but if they're our own, we could sandblast the concrete and take them back out, or if we wrapped them, get a white wrap and let them paint it.
That's what I would suggest.
And that would be the simplest thing, and then whatever's done, you just peel it off and they can be used for wherever else we need them.
Peel it off and you're done.
Sounds like a good idea.
Might even be able to find a sign company to donate some wrap for it.
Do it themselves.
Leah?
On that note, even on top of the barricades, maybe, I don't know if this is possible, but like some kind of flower box built on the top of it, then we can include beautiful flowers. That could be a project that could be done by a local group, but these are all fun ideas. Actually, okay, so this is not a discussion for tonight, but I would love to come back and still talk about the one-way on that street. And personally, I want to go down to River Street with Gary and whoever else is interested and I want to see it visually what that's going to be like, because I'm having a hard time still wrapping my mind around what's the point of having southbound only that just goes west. So only half the town can even use a southbound. street. And I want to know what kind of protection will be then set up for the activities that are still happening on River Street with the southbound only. So that doesn't have to be tonight's discussion, but that is something I want.
I think it's important to touch on it really quick, because there's two things there. One, you'll never get southbound to eastbound. IDOT will never allow that. So it's going to be southbound to westbound. And because it is then officially a one-way roadway, and you'll have do not enter signage, and you'll have all the appropriate one-way only signage at the intersection, there's no requirement for additional barricades at the south end. So the attraction to city council was that we only need to have barricades at the north and at State Street to make it closed for a special event.
And to me, we have to think far out into the future. The corner up at Washington Street, State Street, and Wilson is going to get developed. That huge empty part of that block is going to get developed. And there has to be a traffic pattern available to outlet from that, going west, going down to River Street and going west. That's something we have to consider into the future. Doesn't really have to be there today, but in the future, you're going to have a way out of there to go west, an easier, a secondary outlet from that. So that has to be there. And whatever else happens north on River Street is going to have a connection to Wilson without having to go back up to Washington Street. So that's really, in my mind, that's where that has to be, is the long-term vision for that quadrant of town. That southbound traffic has to be available there on River Street. If that's completely closed off, you force everything back up to the light, then you're going to end up with a turn bay that's as long as the first block.
Well, there's not that much traffic coming off of River Street.
There will be when it gets developed all the way
that's
to where the dam was.
All of itself. Because now apparently we'll have all this traffic just coming down River Street, using it as an outlet on our WUNRF, and that's not going to be very pleasant to those businesses.
Now that the weather has improved, it gives us more opportunities to get there out on the street and get the view of things so that you can directly observe them and have those type of conversations. So we'd be happy to set that up.
Thank you.
Nick?
The one thing I'll say, this is a great conversation, and if everyone listening, especially in the audience, will recognize it, everyone here is looking for the best of Batavia. How do we get there? When this started, when COVID hit, our mantra was, let's be nimble and see how it goes. So I would say to you, Leah, that, we're doing this in reaction to being nimble and trying to come up with a solution. This doesn't have to be for 100 years. Let's see how it goes. The one way, I want to see it open with, I don't know, there's so many, we come up with all these ideas. What if we do this? What if we do that? I'm up for trying them all and seeing what works best, but in the end, we know we're all trying to do what's best for the most amount of businesses, and let's try these things. But the one thing that's constant is when we created River Street, there was a vision, and to a degree, we've met that. You go out there on a Thursday and a trivia night, whatever night that is, and you see people out there in the summer, there is pride going through all of us going, that is what we wanted to convey, and that's what we're working towards. So that's the goal that we need to keep in front of us, knowing that we've been, I think, impressively been nimble for the last 2-3+ years, and we will continue to do that. And any of these ideas, I'm for trying, but it doesn't mean they're locked in stone. Let's see what works best and continue these discussions, but we gotta try to keep that River Street vibe going, I think. That's why I'm not, Abby, I appreciate your reference to my trying to cut this down. This is great conversation. I want to know if we're all in for that, let's keep the conversation heading in that direction, but, and also in business, they say, don't cut down any ideas because you don't want to stop creativity. And we've come up with some great ideas, I think, and let's try them all.
Abby, get your hand back up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have two quick questions and comments. One, thank you, Jennifer, for pushing on the barricade painting. When we discussed this last as well, I had asked if the Jersey barricades can go on the south side of the Type 3 barricades, and if some decoration was able to be added to them, then that would be a much more welcoming, warm, kind of in vibe with the street first impression as you're going down Wilson Street, because it would look like something intentional and not a closed road. So if those barricades are indeed simply for safety and an optional piece, then can they be placed on the Wilson Street side of the road closure?
No, because then you're obstructing the orange and white barricades. The orange and white barricades need to be the first thing traffic sees. Big sign that says road closed.
Makes total sense. Okay, then the other question I have is that we are a little bit more intentional with the placement of these barricades this time around, coming from the south on foot or on a bike. There's just not a lot of space to get
through. But that's intentional. That is intentional. I know it's not desirable for some because they would like to have a much wider space to get pedestrians and bicycles through, but that also is intentional, is to make it appear as if you're not supposed to go through there. That's intentional.
It's intentional to make it seem like cyclists need to find another route around the block to get to the bike path?
Well, the barricades primarily occupy the space between or underneath the arch. So, the bicyclists still have room to go through there. If I'm riding a bike, I can get through there fairly easily. If I'm driving a car, I don't want to send a message to a car that, here's a 10-foot opening.
Yep, I don't need a 10-foot opening. I think maybe just something. I don't know what the solution is, but something so that there's a lot of people that come up the hill behind Andres to come up Route 25, or their map tells them as a cyclist heading through our town to come up this way, and they sit there at the intersection at 25 staring at the road closed and going, oh shoot, I don't know where to go. So signage, some sort of little opening that says bike here, come through, but please walk because it's busy and the street's alive and you'll be in our way if you bike through too fast. So something, please.
So could I just clarify where the barricades are placed do not go from building wall to building wall. They're still from the white brick to the building wall that's
underneath the arch
open.
is where the barricades are.
Right, so there is still the ability to pass on either side of the barricades. And certainly that would probably be the closest route if you were coming from south on 25. Right next to El Taco Grande would be the path that you would take.
Okay, so maybe some signage, something that welcomes, something a little bit more welcoming than what we have.
If I can ask a question to Gary too, because I have a question on signage. I don't know what the regulations are, but there's a difference in signage between road closed and road closed to motor vehicles. Are we limited to that, just road closed, or?
Yeah, that's an MUTCD
Okay,
thing.
that's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, and we are, the banner that has flown above for the last 2 seasons is at the end of its life. That banner's not going back up, but there will be a new banner that goes up saying, business is open, or whatever the message is.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be reaching out to Main Street for ideas on what they would like, what the businesses would like that to look like.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments? Yeah.
Just off of what Abby's saying and what everybody else is saying, but yeah, I totally agree. Anything we can do at that opening of River Street and Wilson to make it look inviting, at nighttime with the lights, the strung lights on, you can see that there's activity, I think it's during the day. How can we make it during the day look more open and inviting? So whether that's more flowers right there at that entrance, clear banners, clear signs, I don't know, but anything for both day and night where people coming, driving, biking by know that this is a place you want to be. Like, come check it out. You want to be down there. So
It's always been a point of conflict, because we have signage which says, this is closed, stay out of here.
Right.
And you're welcome to come on in.
Yes.
There's no getting around
Very
that,
confusing, yeah.
which is why
Road
this
closed,
isn't a
business is
great,
open.
why this isn't a great solution.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know it's not a great solution. It's why we're trying to seek a permanent solution.
Sarah?
I would agree with that. Make sure that humans know they are welcome and invited. And then I know Beth Walker sent out feedback from the different downtown businesses with their opinions on this topic, which I found very useful. And I know not all business owners were necessarily in favor of this permanent closure or temporary 6-month closure. So could we just see if we do go the route of the closure? Is there accommodations that would make this scenario better for the ones who had concerns?
And I think just like we had talked about with what we were going to do with a construction fence up around the block when it was being built.
Yep.
During construction, with signage, I think we need to work with Main Street and the Chamber and the businesses and come up with how we utilize the space we own right now as signage. And get some signage up there that directs people to where the parking is, how to get around the barriers we have to put up to close the street down, to really make it more apparent and easier to navigate for people. I think, honestly, I think when you're on a bike, I think it's actually the easiest way to find your way around down there. When you're in a car and you're from out of town and you've never been there before, it's not simple to figure out how to get around the block and get back to where you can see a parking lot through past those barricades, or you see a bunch of cars. If you came down Houston Street, you can see the parking lot across the river, but you don't know how to get there.
Right.
So I think there's something that we can do, and it just has to be a collaboration so we can make sure we try to make that benefit for those businesses. And like I said, with the parking lot, the lower level of parking lot, I think if we can figure a way to use that and utilize that for only handicap parking and pickup and drop off, I think that will help those businesses in that area, that's something they can utilize for people that need that extra assistance.
And if there is other, concerns that became perennial in the past 2 seasons, if we can hear those from those business owners and help in, whatever way we can.
The only thing I have to say is we keep talking about people are deterred by it. But what's brought us to this point is how busy it's been. So we're saying 2 different things. So we have to say, are we spending too much time saying we think we're scaring people away? People have been used to what it is, and they're coming down, and it's what has gotten us to this point. And we have to remember that. We've been consistent, and they know that they can depend on it, and that they know there's something beyond those orange and white barriers, because we've gotten to this point. If somebody wants to go somewhere, a lot of the people, yes, they're from out of town, they will find a place to go. Mike and I went out of town this weekend to a place we'd never been. We were driving around because we didn't know where to park because we just weren't reading signs. We kept passing a public parking spot, and we didn't even see it. People will find a place to park and get to where they need to be. We can't discount people of not being able to get there. If they've made it this far to Batavia, they are going to find our shops. They are going to get out. They are going to get beyond those orange barriers. We have to stop saying we're scaring people away from the barriers because they're coming and we've gotten to this point.
We have signage for every one of our downtown parking lots, and I can't tell you the times we receive comments by saying, we need more signage to tell people where the parking lots are. There are signs for every single parking lot that we have. People just drive by them. They don't see them.
Right. We didn't see it. We got out, we're like, oh, look it, there's the parking right there. And we parked right next to it.
We also created postcards of the downtown parking maps, and when Shannon first came on board, it was a good way for her to get out and meet all the businesses, to walk around, introduce herself, and Anthony joined her too, to hand those cards out to businesses so that they could have them available in case somebody came in and said, I would have been here 20 minutes sooner, but I couldn't find a parking spot. They've got, something to give them. And also it's available online.
And also just, on the point of clarification tonight, in terms of clarification, we got a lot of emails about people wanting permanent closure. Can we again discuss, this is going to be, we're talking only about a closure from
This year.
Memorial Day through,
The week after Thanksgiving.
Typically, we've
Week
closed
after
it in April
Thanksgiving.
sometime, and it runs to the week after Thanksgiving.
okay. And I just wanted to make that clear for anybody listening as well, because there were so many emails saying we support permanent closure, and that is not what we're discussing.
And the only way we would possibly have an earlier opening of that street if there was going to be some massive snow event
Yeah.
that we wanted to clear the street so that we could make sure that it would be safe. And
Why would
we
you
could
even
clear
put
the
that
snow.
out there?
I know. Or-
Sorry. I remember
I don't like
one
how much he does
Halloween.
If it snows, it's your fault. You talked about it.
I'm sure based on the amount of emails we got that there's some people that might want to interject from the public.
Is there anybody in the room that would like to talk about this tonight? Come on up. Just give us your name for the record. That's all we need is your name.
Hello, my name is Don Blatt. I live in the 4th Ward. I spend a lot of time at the Warnoff, and it's a wonderful place. It's a great idea from the start. I worry about closed now, open this day, close that day. It's confusing. The way it's been done the past 2 years is worked out really well. You want to make the wall prettier? That's great. As far as making it a one-way, I've made a lot of right turns there, and it's tough. You don't know how fast these people are coming down the hill. You don't see them till you're almost out there. It's not really a safe right hand. You have all that land open, excuse me, up by 25, the top of the hill at the light. Couldn't you make an extra right turn? Because trying to turn off a river, you got people coming over from 25, you got people coming down the hill, you got pedestrians crossing. It just seems like during the summer, it's worked out very well being closed. As far as new businesses going up the hill, like I say, you can't make a extra right turn available up at 25. Seems like something to think about. People have been coming out in droves out there. You got kids playing, you got people coming off the path in between the buildings underneath the bridge, and it comes out between the buildings at that alley. And as far as access to the road, I've seen fire trucks get in past the orange barriers on the north end, an ambulance, no problem. I've seen handicapped people drive right up to the picnic table, and people in the water inviting them to drive in and moving the barricade for them. And for people coming into the beauty salon too, to make your point. To open that up to one-way traffic would just be like, it'd be no different than just opening it up. You'd be closing the Warren if you could make it one way, in my opinion. And I spend a lot of time down there. Thanks for your time and allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come up and talk tonight? Is there anybody online?
There are a couple of people online, but nobody has their hand up.
Okay. I think it sounds like the consensus from tonight is we're going to close it for this summer season as a closure and not on and off during the week. I think that definitely makes much more sense logistically, and I think it also is more certain for the businesses knowing how that's going to work. Now, I think we really need to get with both Main Street and the businesses to try to figure out how we utilize that lower level of the parking garage to set up that, sign that so that people know what it's there for, that the businesses know that they can use that for drop off and pickup, And I don't know if we just have to get some more signs out there to mark off once we go to the street closure to have more of those be handicap parking spots.
We can convert them however council
Right.
wants to.
You do handicap, you could also do like, the 15-minute waiting zone if you're running in to grab food, I mean. you
Right.
have a couple
I
of
think
those.
that needs to be the way it's set up. I mean, I think it was amazing to me how Tusk pivoted and basically made a drive-through in the parking spots out in front of their business, and that's what they've relied on, and that's what they've made work. And, I think that that's something we can, modify that parking garage and the parking there to be that kind of drop-off area and a handicap zone that makes more sense for that street. Anybody else? Okay.
Catenary Lighting? It's the other topic.
Number 13.
We are not done talking about North River.
Well, I know it. We're never going to be done talking about North River Street because someday it's going to grow further north, so.
Back, actually 2 years ago now, City Council had discussed the topic of catenary lighting. And at that time, council decided to explore an option for dedicated light posts, so not building attachment. So catenary lighting is basically like the temporary lighting that we put out there, except it would be a permanent, made for permanent installation that hopefully would last for decades. Those of you who don't know, the city's right-of-way extends essentially to the building fronts on both sides of the road. So we have the whole Woonurf to make and utilize. We would not want to put posts anywhere where they're going to pose a impediment to pedestrian traffic, but generally speaking, we could put the posts up close to the buildings, string wires between posts, and then hang overhead lighting down the whole street. That would be a permanent improvement, fed so that it comes on and turns off, or we can have it on, whatever you guys want. We do have TIF funds, and part of North River Street is in a TIF that is set to expire. So now would be the time to move forward if we're going to do that. The TIF will expire 2024, right, Laura?
Yes.
I think that's a 2024 TIF.
Correct.
So we would really need to move now in 2022, which we don't have budgeted for, but we do have TIF funds that are available. Move forward with design this year so that we could get out to construction next year. And that's a project that I could envision being under construction even when everything else is going on the streets. Because again, it'll be small excavations up close to the buildings, should be able to happen relatively without impact from post to post.
Nick, I know you want to talk about it.
Well, no, I mean, do you think this is what you would recommend over the temporary wine barrels we had? It would be basically the same look.
This will look, I mean,
it'll look better, right.
A little more professional, yes.
I think that's what makes Batavia unique.
Oh, boy.
I like the wine barrels. I've always said that.
They don't necessarily have to go away.
They really don't, I'm sorry, but they don't
and-
really go with the aesthetic of North River Street. I mean, this isn't hee-haw. This is, North River Street, which.
I know, but I think it adds to what Batavia is.
It's eclectic.
And I think that's what people enjoy about it. And it's flexible. It's nimble.
Yeah.
We're able to move it.
Don't use my own words against me.
Yeah.
If you look at the picture from my 2020 memo, I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what we're envisioning, is some sort of, and that can have any kind of style you want. We can still make it very eclectic, but it's not just a wooden barrel and a wooden post and a Menards light strip. It actually becomes then a solid something that'll last.
It widens it
I
out
must
too, and
be
I like the
on
look
then.
of the pictures.
'Cause
Yeah.
I really like it. I've always liked it. I'm not a big fan right now of putting it in permanently, but I've lost that battle many times. I'm happy with the temporary ones.
I say we use the TIF fund to do it.
Now's
Yeah,
the
the initial
agree.
investment, I think, well, we've got the money in TIF, I think it's the time to do that. And then, it's just basically maintenance beyond that. If we don't have TIF funds, then it becomes, where do we get the money from?
Well, I do have a question. With TIF 6, if this one expires, is that road part of it where if we were to ever have TIF funds, if we were to happen to delay it, if I were to convince the 12 of them to continue with our wine barrels, could we use TIF funds from TIF 6?
Laura, do you want me to jump in on that?
Sure, go ahead, Scott.
So part of River Street, North River is in TIF 6, but part of it is in TIF 1. So the southern part is what would expire. So everything south of the garage is not going to be in a TIF once the TIF expires. The part from the garage north is in TIF 6, and TIF funds can be used as part of that area.
Leah?
Perhaps the wine barrels, the yeehaw ones could be used elsewhere in our
Sure.
town
Yeah,
as we
exactly.
develop
I
other
mean, there's nothing
areas.
wrong with them. They're just not a permanent improvement. They are made to be temporary.
I like it, it's flexible and mobile.
Nothing
And I
wrong with
think
that.
only one alderman may get this joke, but we'll come back another night to discuss whether it'll be yellow lighting or white lighting.
Yeah, I'll remember that.
That was several meetings of discussion.
Was it warm white? Gotta be warm white.
We used to go through every lighting plan and look at the lumens on and off property down to the last inch, basically.
Okay.
Down to the last lumen.
I like
Right.
warm white.
I will obviously have to come back to you with a proposal from an engineer, from an architect to design
Right.
this, so I will certainly do that, but I will get the ball rolling.
The only thing I have to ask is when you talk about these poles, they're gonna be up right against the buildings?
I don't know yet exactly. I just want to keep them out of the way of pedestrians. So maybe we put a pole next to the granite planters out there. Wherever they land, we want to keep them out of the way of pedestrians.
To make it simple so it's not another obstruction.
We don't want another obstruction out there, yeah.
I know, we're talking about a pole, and you know how passionate people are about how things look.
Well, the poles are going to match all the other poles that are out there. So that's why it's all going to look as if we designed it all
That
as
way.
one comprehensive design.
And I think even when we started the design of River Street, that was one of the things that was an option, was to do that, to have the overhead lights that you could use seasonally or for different things, that those were incorporated. And I think at one point we actually looked at the lights that are out there on a taller pole, but the actual street light at a lower level, and then the other one strung above it.
Right.
So there's all kinds of different options, and Gary and some engineer.
We can put up
figure
more
that out.
flying saucers like the lights that are out there today.
It's gotta sell me from the wine barrels.
Message
No,
received.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on that.
It's kind of like your own little backyard, but on a downtown street with
My
a
backyard.
bunch of different options, not just your grill in your backyard.
No, it's my fire pit in my
Yeah.
backyard.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So that gets us past 13. We already jumped through that one. And on to 14, project status.
Okay,
Laura.
I just have a few items tonight and certainly entertain any questions that you may have for me about our ongoing projects. One really important thing is that we all want to mark our calendars because next week is Batavia Restaurant Madness. And the Main Street has worked with a local videographer to create some really great videos of some of the restaurants who are participating this year. And in those videos, you get a behind-the-scenes look at their restaurants, as well as they will share with you what their special offers are going to be during Restaurant Madness. And the community has been amazing in their support of our restaurants throughout the global pandemic, and we sure hope that you will continue that support March 20th through March 24th next week for Restaurant Madness. Also wanted to let everyone know that we have received a $12,000 reimbursement from FEMA for personal protective equipment that the city purchased early on in the pandemic. And that just goes to show you how long of a process it is to get reimbursements through the federal government, and it takes many responding to additional questions. And I just want to call out Gary for all of his hard work in pursuing that. You have him come to present you with contracts of millions of dollars, but he works really hard on even getting these reimbursements for $12,000, and it's very much appreciated. And then there's just also a couple of things that I wanted to, on the Plan Commission is meeting this Wednesday, And they are going to be considering a petition for a text amendment to allow electronic message centers in the light industrial and general industrial zoning districts, and also some staff-initiated group of text amendments to the zoning code for a variety of kind of housekeeping changes. But I just wanted to alert City Council to that because an electronic message board recently came up for discussion here. So it'll be interesting to see, what Plan Commission decides to do with that. And then certainly they will be making a recommendation to City Council about those.
Laura, did you say that
Yes.
it was an industrial or commercial?
Light industrial and general industrial zoning. And Scott, can you confirm that?
Yes, that's correct. It's already allowed in the commercial districts. We would be an expansion to allow it in the industrial, both the general industrial and light industrial districts.
Okay. So like if they wanted to have a message board that said we're hiring or
Right.
that type of
Correct.
stuff? Okay.
Right.
And in Public Works, we recently completed the roof repairs at the Public Works facility, so it's anticipated that those repairs will now extend the life of that roof another 20 years. Wastewater personnel went out and toured other wastewater treatment facilities as we move into the Phase 1 engineering for our Phase 2A of our wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation. They wanted to evaluate equipment that will potentially be incorporated into the next phase of our project. And then also, the next Mahoney Creek Watershed Stakeholders Meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 23rd at 5:30 p.m. in Council Chambers. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me. Alderman Surratt.
I have one. Speaking of River Street, Paperboy Alley and an archway. It's always been out there. What, is that a dead thing or is that out there? Or what, where does that stand?
It is not in the budget, but one of the things that we could do is, utilize, such as we have heard today about the catenary lights, we could use TIF funding to design and install something there. There aren't any plans that exist.
There's not?
I haven't been able to find any existing plans for an arch, and so we would have to hire somebody to design that.
Oh, I thought this was paid for and designed and just held up for a while.
Propped up on in Public Works, laying against the wall, waiting to be installed.
Not completed, I didn't say that.
No.
It was in a budget and it was done.
It certainly-
and it just never got done, but.
It certainly was contemplated because there are actual holes in River Street where it would be installed, but I am unable to find an existing design for said arch, so we would need to start with that design phase.
Does Mike know where the designs are?
He probably does.
He probably does.
I know we've talked about several times, I've actually run, I think, the Dave Brown over there one time. We were looking at the pads that are there for the mounting for.
Mm-hmm.
They're there. Okay, any other questions? Jen?
Just to kind of follow up on, you mentioned about the utility payments,
Yes.
and potentially going back to the previous, because of so many checks are getting processed. As one of those checks that get processed, I think we need to look at, obviously, we see a trend of how people are starting to do their banking. They don't order checks anymore. They're doing everything through their bank. So, it was weird when we did switch purveyors because I would see my money come out, and
Right.
now it's like, oh, I have to plan and order a check to be sent, and so I'm all for going back to the previous vendor.
Mhm.
That's what's decided, especially with 800 plus checks, and plus more because people will continue to go on like, oh, I don't want checks anymore. I send one check, and that's to the city. So
Right.
just want to kind of point that out.
Sure.
And as a user.
Yes.
And seeing how many that is. That
Yes,
is
a staggering number compared to what it was before.
So much easier just to take a batch file that comes from the banks and upload it into your financials and everything reconciled
Right.
quickly than check. going to.
Understood.
Keena?
Laura, were
Yes.
you going to update us about sorry, I can't see you.
That's okay.
The meeting you had with the Park District?
Oh, sure. I would be happy to. In fact, I'm sure that a lot of people are wondering what in the world is going on with the Master River Planning, or if you want to call it the Depot Pond and Dam project. And back at the end of last year, it was the intent that City Council and the Park District, the next step was to come together to see if, following you having your own meeting to determine if you could find consensus around one of those concepts. Unfortunately, the results of that meeting, there was some split, but I think council still wanted to move forward with having a joint meeting with the Park District. The Park District is in favor of having some type of impoundment where the dam previously existed, but Allison said that there isn't consensus around which one of the alternatives that include an impoundment. And therefore, the Park Board was interested in asking Hitchcock Design Group to look at the impoundment concepts and identify recreational opportunities that would exist, that would be possible under each one of those three different scenarios, to see if they could come to further consensus on their side before coming back to meet with City Council. So Hitchcock Design Group is going to put together a scope of work and a cost of that. And at that time, I'm going to bring that proposal back to you. If you feel that there is value in having that additional information to assist you in your coming to a consensus about which of the concepts are preferable, then we could consider sharing in the cost of that. If on the other hand, you don't find any, you have enough information at this point, you feel, in order to identify the concepts that you find preferable, then maybe that is just a Park Board project, and we wait for them to come back to us after they have had an opportunity to review the report.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of a park issue because they're the ones that are gonna try and program what they're gonna do out there with the river, whatever it ends up being, and whatever ends up being the impoundment behind us at the depot, they're gonna be the ones that try to program that for, their use or their, programming that they would like to do through the park district. So I don't know if that's our, that's not on us. I mean, yes, it's still our residents that are gonna pay for it through the park district, but it's not something that I think that we, at least I don't think we need any more information from that side of it. Tom?
Do we have any deadlines to make sure we don't blow the funding that's available for removal?
I like to call it any given budget, so the money is in the current state budget, but it is in jeopardy every time there is a new budget with the state. And with, you could maybe count on the fact that this administration is in favor of the funding remaining available, but we also have a gubernatorial election coming up. And if things were to change there, that puts it in jeopardy as well.
And do we know what point in the process we need to be at in order to make sure the funding is guaranteed?
So IDNR has told us, even if we come to them with a concept that all the parties agree upon, they still will not commit to funding at any point, but until, a document is signed where they've committed to fund it. But they have said, you continue to be sort of our next project following North Aurora if you continue to make progress on this. Their expectation is that at some point, like this summer, that we say, oh, look, the Park District and the city have agreed on said concept. And at that point, IDNR would request that the city of Batavia enter into a memorandum of understanding with them, that we would sort of be the lead agency on, because it's our dam. And that's the part of the project that they are funding. And so that would be the next step in the process, once we've decided what concept we're gonna move forward with.
Questions we'll ask next week, too. If we get to sit with IDOT, we'll definitely talk about that. Or with
IDNR.
DNR.
They've been incredibly helpful, and we've had very productive conversations both with them and with Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody online? Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any others tonight? See on project status? Mark?
Can we put this back to the original dais that we had before? Do we really need to have it this way?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I'd also be interested to know, the governor did extend the emergency order one more time. But if we put the dais back together, are we also interested in going back to in-person meetings? Or would you like to just leave the hybrid in place for as long as the disaster declaration remains in place?
But we can put the dais back and still be hybrid.
Yep, we sure can. Just, yeah, they're separate but related.
Because Keenan is probably tired of not being able to see everybody.
Yeah, it's hard to see through this podium.
I like my seat here, though.
Yes and yes are my answers to that.
Okay. We can
Not having
do
to
that.
try to manage a meeting where I'm constantly looking at screens and trying to figure out who's got their hand up, who doesn't, who's talking, what all the little comments are across the bottom and the chat screen. I'll just be happy when we're all back in this room.
Are we required to give that option as long as the governor extends it?
We are not required. The only reason we're permitted to do it is because of the disaster declaration. So it's sort of just the opposite of that. Otherwise, the Open Meetings Act requires everyone to meet in person unless they make one of three exceptions: traveling for business, illness, or emergency.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be much happier if it was back the other way, too. That would be.
We'll work on that first.
Thank you.
One at a time. Okay.
I just had one more.
I'm sorry, Jen. Go ahead.
Just as a reminder, there's going to be an upcoming screening of the S-Word movie. Life Scout Ethan Tarver will be hosting a free screening to support the work of suicide prevention in America. As we know, suicide prevention is a local organization. After the screening, there'll be a Q&A session with local mental health professionals. So you can sign up on their Facebook page or at Suicide Prevention. There's an event page that you can sign up. And it's going to be held at the Park District at 327 West Wilson Street.
And Ethan Tarver and his father will be presenting at our next city council meeting as well to tell everybody more about the project.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder. All right, and if there are no others, we will need a motion to go in executive session for collective bargaining and personnel, and no action to follow after.
No.
So moved.
Motion by Sofa, second by Connolly. Roll call, please.
Sofa?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Perrin?
Aye.
Lehman?
Aye.
Ayazi?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
Vogelsinger?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Rosado? Beck?
Aye.
Connolly?
Aye.
Kendrick? Sofa?
Aye again.
Sorry. Just making sure you're listening. 12-0.
Okay. All right,
Okay, see you in the next meeting.
everybody.